we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Fool me once, fool me once, fool me once. Shame on, shame on, shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. Fool me, can't get fooled again, 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 can't get fooled again,
And it is our duty as loyal Americans to shut up once the fighting begins. Once the war against Saddam begins, we expect every American to support our military, and if they can't do that, to shut up.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it? We think the price is worth it. 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 We think.
And it is our duty as loyal Americans to shut up once the fighting begins. Once the war against Saddam begins, we expect every American to support our military, and if they can't do that, to shut up.
We think the price is worth it. 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 We think the price is worth it.
Because I think we're at this point where we have to do something major. We know the shortcomings of dealing with the major media. Yes, I think we've had a decent shake because we at least got into the debates. They could have prevented it. We didn't get the even amount of time. And of course, we never got a fair amount of time on the evening network. But we still had enough time for people to look us up and go to the internet and actually kick off the campaign. But there's another thing that I think we ought to do. We ought to make a grand display. We ought to have a true march to show what our numbers are. And this is risky. Just as it was rather risky for us to put right on our website as the dollars were coming in, because if the dollars had not come in, we would have had to do what those other candidates did when they pretended they were going to have a money bomb, and they had to remove it rather quickly. But we didn't, because you fulfilled, the requirement and the dedication, and the money came in and it became exciting and a game, and the media noticed it. But a march on Washington could do the same thing. It could be very, very valuable. It could send a powerful message where the media can't ignore us. At the same time, if nobody shows up, it might mean that, maybe there weren't enough of us. Maybe we didn't have the energy. Maybe we didn't want to go to Washington. But others have gone to Washington, and people remember the grand rallies. So I am at a point where I think we have to make a grand stand. We have to stand firm and see where the numbers are and be counted and see if the remnant is there and see how big it is. We can never count the remnant, but we can certainly energize those who have been identified already. So for me, I'm sort of getting excited about this because I have talked with others and they say this is a great idea. And there's been so much good music associated with this campaign. There's no reason in the world why we can't do as well as some others have done in Washington. But we're at the crossroads. If we don't turn it around soon, I kept thinking at the beginning of this campaign we weren't ready, and that's why I was reluctant. But then when I got involved, I found out there were many more than I ever dreamed of. So now we're at a point, and I have been convinced that it is more crucial. But we have to realize exactly where we stand in this particular campaign and at the convention. But it doesn't mean that our voices won't be heard. And if we do this right, and if we really have a grand rally and a grand march, and then there are question marks left with our nominees or potential nominees in September for the convention, then they will know that we can't be ignored. And I am hearing this daily from other members of Congress and around the country that, oh, please do this, please do that, your guy's running against me. They're begging and pleading. So they know we are a force, and it's a growing force. So I'm throwing this out as an idea, and I hope everybody will join, because if it isn't an acceptable idea, there will be, no purpose in it, and it will not do us any good. But I happen to believe it can work and has to work. So if we want to really take a stand for freedom, take a stand that nobody can ignore us, to see what would happen if we really had this grand march on Washington. And this would have to be done rather soon. I'm not talking about, in 6 months or a year. I'm talking about rather soon, 3 or 4 months before the convention. So hopefully we can put this all together, and hopefully I can get the enthusiasm from all of you, just as you have given enthusiastic support for this campaign already, both in the volunteer work as well as the fundraising end. So once again, I want to thank you very much for tuning in and paying attention and listening to this update. But there's no reason in the world that we should back off. This is a time to march forward. Thank you for listening.
At this time, I have the honor to present to you the moral leader of our nation, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
A time comes when silence is betrayal. That time has come for us, even when pressed by the demands of inner truth. Men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy,
we're watching from here.
especially in time of war. And I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
Mexican store, Todd, Roger.
What do they think as we test out our latest weapons on them? Now that is little left to build on save bitterness. We are met by deep but understandable mistrust. To speak for them is to explain this lack of confidence in Western words, and especially their distrust of American intentions now. The world now demands a maturity of America that we may not be able to achieve. This way of settling differences is not just. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Somehow this madness must cease. We must stop now. I speak as one who loves America. To the leaders of our own nation, the great initiative in this war is ours. The initiative to stop it must be ours.
I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it. I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it. I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it. I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it. I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it. I will insist on the military so powerful no one would ever think of challenging it.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! I'm as mad as hell!